Hello there, world of tankers. Welcome to the channel. I'm your host, Droodles Blitz, and I'm gonna be honest, guys. I'm losing my mind. Like, I'm seriously losing my mind. This is the BZT-70. It is a Tier 10 Chinese collector heavy. It's a Tier 11 on World of Tanks Lesta PC, and it's coming to Blitz as a Tier 10 heavy. But here's the thing. On Lesta, the BZT features a 190mm armament. Guess what? Wargaming decided to keep that 190mm armament in Blitz. And you'll see just what that means when we break into the gun stats. But let's first of all start off with this vehicle's armor because it's got quite a lot. This here is the vehicle's armor profile against 250 mils of AP, and this is it with 270 mils. As we can see, the upper plate, super strong, 290 mils thick, meaning you have to load gold to pen it. In fact, if we change the shooter to something that actually has decent gold rounds like an M6 Show, this is what it looks like firing gold rounds from a vehicle running calibrated shells, right? So the upper plate, it's pretty easy pen, but it is still quite strong, especially if you angle the vehicle against premium ammo. It's pretty strong. The turret is even stronger. We can see the flat armor of the turret is about 320. But this vehicle features gun depression, and what that means is that you can use the gun depression it has, and now loading gold shells, you can't pen the turret. It's over 380 thick. So yeah, tank destroyers will be able to cut through the turret armor, but well, as long as you're not in a tank destroyer, you're gonna have a really, really hard time cutting through the vehicle. So that means you have two options, and that is the hatches. You have this hatch, which is only 189 thick, and then you've got this hatch, which is 185. They are weak spots, but they're going to be pretty hard to hit, especially when this vehicle's aiming at you and you're going to be really scared about losing a huge chunk of health. We can see that it does have a large lower plate, which is quite easy to cut through. However, the side armor is really good because it's got these massive tracks, as we can see. You can over-angle the vehicle quite a bit, and its side is still very, very thick. Especially if you're loading gold, you're going to have a super hard time cutting through that spaced armor. So, yeah, the tank has pretty good side scraping capabilities. You do have a weak spot here, but it's a very small corner cutout, and realistically, it's going to be a really tricky shot to hit at anything more than 50 meters. The sides of the tank are quite strong, about 100 millimeters, and it's covered in spaced armor all around, so it's actually going to be really hard to penetrate the vehicle on the sides with any sort of high explosive, but obviously standard ammo will cut right through. The rear of the tank, however, is only 46, meaning that it's going to be pretty easy to actually shoot the back of this vehicle. Even with an M6 Show, which doesn't have the highest of HE pen at 65 mils, it's a pretty easy shot. Same for the back of the turret, only 68 mils thick. So while this vehicle does have really good armor frontally, I was really surprised to see how poor the rear armor was. But the armor isn't the only real strong point of this tank. The strong point is this. Yeah, 910 damage per shot. You heard that. 910 damage per shot. What the heck? So if we properly equip this tank, we'll put on calibrated shells, enhanced gun laying drive, we'll put on, all the basic equipment. So this vehicle has 2300 DPM. That's not bad. That's actually pretty average levels of DPM for a tier 10 heavy. No worse than a VK72 or an E100. It has 910 damage per shot. I should mention, it also has Hesh, which does 1200. Yep, that's right. With 230 millimeters of pen. Can I ask, just very briefly, what is the point of driving a 183 when this tank exists? I mean, the 183 has about the same Hesh pen and does the same damage. I don't get it. I'm losing my mind, guys. I'm losing my mind. It also has standard HE, which does, well, 1350 damage. Yep, that's right, with 97 millimeters of pen. So if you got the side or rear of a light tank, you can potentially one-shot it, which is insane. And just loading your gold high explosive, you'll deal 1200. Even if you don't load gold, it's still 900. What the hell? That is actually so dumb. Now, there is something I shouldn't mention, and that's the shell velocity. 500 meters a second of shell velocity makes this one of the slowest shell velocity tanks in the game. Loading high explosive, it goes down to 400 meters a second, and the standard HE is also 400. So, while the vehicle does feature insane damage per shot, it has Awful, awful shell velocity. So you might be inclined to run Supercharger, but even with Supercharger, it's only going to be sitting at 540, and with the standard, it's going to be around 675, meaning that even with Supercharger, it's going to be useless. I wouldn't recommend the run Supercharger. Now, the aiming time is surprisingly good. It's 21 out of the 31 heavies, which for a 180 millimeter armament is pretty solid. However, the on-movement dispersion and base dispersion is pretty terrible, so that is something to keep in mind. The vehicle also only features 5 degrees of gun depression. It goes 32 kilometers per hour, reverses at 12, and has a power-to-weight ratio of 12. So it's pretty slow, but it's honestly not that slow. On medium terrain, it's about average in the heavies category. So, yeah, I mean, it's really hard to look at this vehicle and say, like, flat out what it's going to be. But here's what I'll say. The level of armor this vehicle features, combined with the level of alpha damage it has, is overpowered. And yes, its shell velocity is terrible, but I still don't think it matters. You're going to be frontlining in this tank, and as long as you have half a brain cell and you're shooting at other heavily armored vehicles, what do you do to counter it? I mean, even an M6 Yo, which does 900 damage in 1.71 seconds, this thing can turn back and shoot it for 1200 damage in the lower plate. That's crazy. But 400 meters of shell velocity is pretty freaking awful. Like, to show how bad that shell velocity is, we can make our way over to a vehicle like the Chieftain Mark 6. I love the Chieftain Mark 6, but its standard high explosive shell velocity is terrible. It's some of the worst in the game, and that's 671 meters a second. So, yeah, you're looking at 30% less shell velocity with the premium high explosive on the BZT. It is legitimately going to go, ooh. It's going to be slow. It's going to be so slow. So I guess that's Wargaming's way of balancing the tank, is they're making the shell velocity is the worst thing ever to make up for the fact it has decent levels of aiming time, crazy levels of alpha, and stupid good levels of armor. It also doesn't feature any gun depression, which is not the case of the Chinese tier 11 on Lesta, which has like 8 degrees of gun depression. So, I don't know. I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think. I think the alpha damage is too high. I guess Wargaming's trying to make it different from the Type 5 Heavy, but man, 910? And by the way, the DPM's not bad. Like, running Kali and running the Hesh, you have 3000 DPM. So it's not like you struggle to deal damage either. I don't know. I really don't know what to say, but what I will say is that if balanced improperly, this could be a game-breaking vehicle. We already don't like the 183, so another 183 existing. I don't know how I feel. The good news is that it's a heavy, and it doesn't have good camo values, so it's not like it's going to surprise attack you. And with the shell velocity being so bad, if anybody did try camping in it, it's probably not going to go too well. But either way, we'll see what it does when it gets into testing. What a weird vehicle. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.